If you've ever been to Portland, or you know that our public transportation system is pretty nice, and the MAX system has a tram that runs between the airport and the city center until fairly late at night. I was coming home from seeing my family at Christmas, and my flight came in very late, so I was lucky enough to catch the last MAX home. Because it was so late, it was just me and a guy who looked homeless sitting a few seats ahead of me. He was sleeping with his head against the window. I paid little attention to him, but noticed his head lolling around and wondered if he was wasted. Anyway, we get to the city center, and there are cops waiting there because apparently the homeless guy sitting in front of me is being escorted off the tram. Airport security had tried to get him off before and thought he was ignoring them and refusing to move. And that's when both the cops and I find out that the guy had been deceased the whole time. He had overdosed at some point before the MAX had even arrived at the airport. We had been riding on that dark midnight ride alone together, with one of us fairly deceased. Daniel Camargo Barbosa, also known as the sadist of El Charquito, was a Colombian serial murderer alleged to have her asterisk paid and slayed up to 180 young girls throughout Colombia and Ecuador between the 1970s and 1980s. Camargo's mother passed away as a newborn, and his father was emotionally distant. Later, his father wed again because of her infertility issues. Daniel's new stepmother started mistreating and humiliating him by clothing him as a girl. Because of this, his classmates at school made fun of him. She would also frequently beat him in front of his friends. After learning that the woman he planned to marry wasn't a virgin, he made a deal with her that if she helped him find other virgin girls to have S*X with, he would stay with her. This was the beginning of their criminal cooperation. After a number of our *Pez and homicides, Camargo was only convicted of our *Ping and slaying one victim, and then imprisoned in Colombia in 1977. He was sentenced to 25 years but escaped jail in 1984. At least 54 *Pez and slayings were committed by Camargo in Guayaquil between 1984 and 1986 because they didn't realize that one person could have slayed so many people. The authorities initially assumed that a gang was responsible for all the fatalities. He abused and slayed mainly poor, defenseless young women. He went up to them, claiming to be a foreigner looking for a Protestant pastor. He was approached by the police on patrol because they thought Camargo was acting strangely. They discovered that he was carrying a bag containing the bloody clothing and part of the genitalia of his most recent victim, as well as a copy of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. In 1989, Camargo was found guilty and given the maximum sentence possible in Ecuador at the time, 16 years in jail. The nephew of one of Barbosa's numerous victims fatally stabbed him in a prison in 1994 at the age of 64. One of China's most notorious serial killers in history is Wong Kong. Kong never attended school since his father was an alcoholic and abused him. He was thus troubled, ignorant, and unable to hold a job. In 1995, Wong slayed his first victim. By the time he was captured in July 2003, Kwong had slayed 45 people. According to official records, he was also found guilty of 10 bez. In his confessions, he admitted that after slaying young girls, he loved sexually exploiting them. Wong Kong was 30 when he was executed in 2005. In September 1982, a 12-year-old girl in Chicago passed away shortly after taking an extra-strength Tylenol. Another man passed away in the hospital the same day after taking the same medication. 2 of his family members came after. During the following few weeks, more seemingly healthy individuals perished. The only thing they had in common was that they had taken extra-strength Tylenol just before they passed away. It was found that several of the extra-strength Tylenol pills had been poisoned with potassium cyanide. The latter can be lethal within 15 minutes of exposure, as it interferes with the body's ability to utilize oxygen. After this information became public, Johnson & Johnson ran multiple advertisements urging consumers to ban the product. The company quickly developed a triple-sealed package that would deter tampering. The original poisonings resulted in 7 demises, while subsequent copycat acts resulted in several further fatalities. According to Times report from 1982, officials from the Food and Drug Administration speculated that the responsible person had purchased extra-strength Tylenol capsules from a retailer, added cyanide to the red half of the capsules, sealed the bottles, and then smuggled them back onto the shelves of pharmacies and supermarkets. No one has been charged or found guilty of the poisonings. The incidents prompted changes to over-the-counter drug packaging and the creation of federal anti-tampering regulations. Gary Ridgway, now 73, from Washington, Oregon, is convicted of 49, age 14 to 38, and suspected of at least 71 homicides, making him one of the deadliest serial killers in America. Allegedly, most of Ridgway's victims were S*X workers and other women in precarious situations, such as underage runaways. After the first 5 victims of Ridgway were discovered in the Green River, the press gave him his moniker of the Green River Killer. He would often strangle his victims and dump their bodies in forests and overgrown areas in King County. He frequently went back to the bodies to pay them. He was spared the most extreme penalty and given a life sentence without the possibility of parole as part of a plea agreement where he agreed to provide the locations of still missing women. Ridgway later admitted in his testimony that he had lost count of the number of people he had slain. Finding a woman who had committed suicide by hanging herself from the monkey bars of a park I used to work at 6:15 on a very foggy morning. When I got to the gate of the park to open it, park maintenance worker I could see her 100 yards away at the playground and thought she was just standing there looking at the ground with her umbrella on the ground beside her. It was only when I got closer did I realize she was hanging from a jump rope 6 inches off the ground. My voice was very shaky during my 911 call. The dispatcher asked me to touch her to see if she was cold. She was very cold and very wet. Had been raining all night. The get up part is this park is very close to an elementary school, and the parking lot is a popular place to drop kids off at ... and it was a weekday. For ghost hunters, paranormal activity seekers, and adrenaline junkies, the Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa, is a well-known tourist destination. Paranormal investigators familiar with the house declared it among the most haunted locations in America following the summer 1912 mass homicide, right next to 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, where 5 people were slain in the fall of 1974, the case in which 6 children and 2 adults had their skulls completely smashed while asleep in bed, was never solved and remains a mystery to this day. The location of a horrifying mass homicide was bought in 1994, restored to its 1912 condition, and turned into a tourist attraction. Paranormal investigators who have toured the house have produced audio, video, and visual evidence of paranormal activity in the place shrouded in mystery. Children's voices, falling lamps, moving ladders, and flying objects have all caused the tour to end early. But the haunting changed into something more sinister in the fall of 2014. On November 7th, Robert Stephen Lowerson Jr., 37, of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, had a routinely scheduled paranormal tour with his friends. Lowerson was found with a self-inflicted chest stab wound and was taken to a neighboring hospital. According to the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, the self-inflicted wound occurred at approximately 12:45 a.m., roughly when the 1912 axe murders in the home happened. Lowerson recovered from his injuries, but never spoke publicly about what happened that day. The Villisca Axe Murder House is still operating today. At the time of writing, the price of the overnight stay is for $128, and anyone over the age of 12 can take a tour. Dead friends shouldn't call, especially when they died a year ago in a place with no signal. It happened a year after the tragedy. My best friend Claire vanished in the woods during a camping trip. No body, no tracks, just her backpack, neatly placed under a tree. I blamed myself for months. We had a fight before she disappeared. I walked back to the camp. She stayed on the trail, then silence, no calls, only the night, the woods, and what I thought was her scream echoing somewhere behind the trees. A year later, I tried to move on, changed my number, built a new life until I got the call. It was her number, old, disconnected. The screen said, "Claire is calling." I thought it was a cruel joke, but something in me twisted. I answered. Silence, then static, like someone speaking underwater. "Amy ... can you hear me?" It was her voice, weak, broken. I nearly dropped the phone. "Where are you? Who is this?" "I don't know ... It's dark ... They won't let go." The line cut off. I couldn't sleep that night. I checked everything. Call history, GPS, number. It was like the call never happened. Then came the photos. Pictures started showing up on my phone of those same woods. In each one, a silhouette, a woman between the trees. Her face blurry, but I knew it was Claire ... I had to go back, find the truth. The forest greeted me with silence. At the old spot, her backpack was there, like it had just been placed. On it, a fresh drop of blood ... Then I heard her voice, behind me, a whisper. "You came, now I can leave." And now I'm here, alone, no signal, the sky black as ink, and I hear footsteps among the trees. They're coming. Claire brought me, so she could go, and someone must stay. You never know who's watching, even when the camera's off. I bought an old webcam at a flea market. The guy said it was vintage, a real classic from the 2000s. I thought it'd be fun for streaming horror games. But everything started that night when I first plugged it in. The camera turned on by itself. Even when I shut it off, it flicked back on. Then I noticed something weird, a shadow in the background. At first, just a blur in the corner. Then, a shape, clear, standing right behind me. I turned around. No one there, but it was on screen. In every new frame. Closer, I started recording. One night, the footage showed me standing in the middle of the room, talking to myself. But I was asleep, or thought I was. I checked the logs. The footage couldn't exist. The computer had been turned off. Then I found a folder, one I never created, inside videos, named things like he underscore sees underscore you, out underscore turn underscore off underscore the underscore light, behind underscore you, in each. Short clips of me, always me, in rooms where the webcam shouldn't have reached, even places with no cameras at all. Soon, the screen would turn on by itself, even with no webcam, and I heard a voice, metallic, scraping, "We see you. Soon you'll join us." I burned the webcam, or thought I did, but it still turns on, and last night I woke up, and on screen, there I was again, but someone had a hand on my shoulder. No one knows my secrets except those who visit at night. It all started after I moved. New house, new job, night shifts. I started sleeping during the day, but every night I woke up at 3:33, always the same time, to whispers. At first I thought it was neighbors or auto-playing TV, but when I turned everything off, the whispers stayed. I couldn't make out the words, just noise, but each night it got clearer. He knows. Don't speak. We're near. I tried recording, and I realized you can't hear the voices on tape, only I could. When I was there, one night I heard them say something terrifying. How he stole. How he didn't help. How he left her. They knew everything, things I never told anyone, things I barely admitted to myself, that I was guilty of my sister's death, that I didn't save her, that I ran. Now the whispers grow louder, clearer, sometimes from the closet, sometimes from under the bed, sometimes from inside my head. Last night I heard it single quotes as time to pay. We're coming. If you hear them, don't listen. They won't tell you the truth. They'll tell you what you want to hide, and they won't stop until you pay or until you become one of them. We don't have an upstairs, but someone keeps walking around up there. It started with the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, stomping across the floor. They came from above me, but we lived in a one-story house. I checked over and over again. No upstairs, no attic, just the flat roof and the attic door, which was nailed shut. At first, I dismissed it as my imagination. Maybe the house was settling. but the sounds were too real, too persistent. They came every night at 2:14 a.m. without fail. Creaks, footsteps, dragging sounds, as if someone was pacing, pulling something heavy across the floor. One night I decided to confront it. I went outside, climbed onto the roof, and checked the attic door. To my horror, I found it was slightly ajar. My heart raced as I stepped inside, flashlight shaking in my hand. The attic was empty, covered in dust. Nothing seemed out of place. That's when I noticed something strange. A small wooden door, hidden behind a pile of old boxes. It wasn't there before. I never saw it during the years I'd lived here. My heart skipped a beat. I reached for the door, only to feel a cold draft wash over me. I opened it, only to find a narrow, dark staircase leading down into nothingness. But as I stared into the abyss below, I could swear I saw something move. I backed out, slamming the door shut. My breath quickened. But then I heard the noise again, footsteps, close. I ran to the landlord. He looked at me, his eyes wide, his face drained of color. "That room doesn't exist," he whispered. "No one's supposed to be up there." That night, as I lay in bed, I heard the footsteps again, closer, louder than the dragging sound, now so real it shook the walls. The next morning, the door was gone. It had vanished. But I swear I saw someone standing in the corner of the room, watching me. I turned, blinked, and then nothing. The room was empty. But nah, every night I hear the footsteps. They always come at 2:14 a.m. and sometimes they end right above my bed. I thought it was a leak, but then it started whispering. It began with a steady drip, drop after drop, coming from beneath the kitchen sink. At first I ignored it. A little leak, nothing serious, ... But then it started, the whispering. At first it was faint, almost imperceptible, just a low murmur. But as the days went on, it grew louder, more distinct. It was like someone was speaking directly to me, a voice I didn't recognize. Soft, low, almost comforting, but with a tone that set my nerves on edge. I opened the cabinet beneath the sink, expecting to find a burst pipe. But everything looked fine. The pipes were intact. No leaks, nothing unusual. Still, the voice persisted every night. It spoke in a language I didn't understand. A guttural, harsh dialect, like something ancient. One evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone, recorded the sound, and played it back. The voice, distorted, spoke clearly. "Let me out." I froze. Who was speaking? What was behind the wall? I called a plumber, and when he arrived, he looked at the sink, then the floorboards beneath it. His face went pale. He muttered something about old houses and bad plumbing. But when he looked back at me, his eyes were wide with terror. "There's something under there," he said, voice trembling, "something that shouldn't be." He left without finishing the job. I didn't see him again. That night I heard it, the whisper, but it was no longer distant. It was clear, and it was inside the pipes. It wasn't just speaking anymore, it was calling me. The next day I couldn't resist. I pried up the floorboards, and there it was, a hole leading down into the blackness. The whisper came from within. I heard it again last night. "Reach in. Take it." I couldn't stop myself. I almost did. But at the last second, something grabbed my wrist, cold, clammy, pulling me down. I screamed, yanked my arm free, and backed away. Now I hear it every night. It's waiting for me to return. It won't stop until I do. They keep sending me mail from people who died years ago. It started with a letter from my grandmother. She passed away over 10 years ago, but the envelope had no return address. The handwriting was unmistakable. Hers, inside, it was simple, a single sentence. Don't trust the man at your job. 2 days later, my coworker was arrested for fraud. The warning came true, but that was just the beginning. The next letter was from a childhood friend of mine, the one who drowned in high school. The letter read, "Check the floorboards, they lied." It was cryptic, but I felt a chill. I checked under the floorboards of my bedroom and found old, forgotten photos of me and my friend. But then there was something else, my adoption papers, secrets my parents never told me. Who was sending these letters? And how did they know these things? The letters kept coming, different handwriting, different names. They were all from people I knew, people who died long ago. The messages always contained truths I had forgotten or never knew. Last week, a package arrived. Inside was a journal. My name was on the cover, but the dates inside, distant future dates, dated 2047. I opened it. The journal described everything I'd done, every decision I made. It even knew things I hadn't yet done, like the phone call I was about to make or the decision I hadn't yet finalized. The last entry in the journal read, "Burn the letters or become one." I think I understand now. These letters aren't warnings, they're invitations. Someone or something wants me to join them. And if I don't burn the letters, I will fade away like the others. It started at midnight, and every second it ticks, reality breaks. I bought the clock at an antique store. It was old, beautiful, and with a strange charm. But the hands didn't move forward like a normal clock. They moved in reverse. At midnight, it began, tick 11:59, tick 11:58, and each time the clock ticked backward, something changed. At first, it was small. The bruises on my arm faded. A scar I had from years ago disappeared. I looked at my phone, and old messages reappeared. Messages from people who had long stopped speaking to me. The voicemail was full of messages I never received. As the clock ticked backward, I felt younger. The gray hairs on my head turned dark. My joints didn't hurt. I was losing time, but gaining life. Then I saw her. My wife, she had passed away a year ago, but there she was, alive, smiling, standing in front of me as if nothing had changed. The clock reached 11:11, and the room went cold. She whispered in my ear, "Don't stop it." Now, every day, the clock rewinds a little more. I see people I've lost, things I've forgotten, and with every tick, reality fractures. The worst part, I know that when it reaches 0 o'clock, I will be someone else, a version of me that never existed. I'm afraid of what will happen when the clock strikes midnight for the last time. He smiled at me on the train. Now I see him everywhere. I first noticed him on the subway, a man at the far end of the car. His smile was wide and blinking. I tried to ignore it, But every time I looked up, he was still there, staring at me. A cold, unsettling smile that didn't leave his face. When I got off at my stop, I thought it was over, but then later that night I saw him standing outside my apartment building, still smiling. I called the police, but when they arrived, he was gone. But he left something behind, a photo of me, taken while I was asleep in my bed. I thought it was a prank. I changed my phone number. I moved to a new apartment. I deleted all my social media accounts. But every time I looked in a window, a reflection, I saw his smile. And the whispers began. They were soft at first, then louder. Every night I heard his laughter. Just outside my window, I thought I was losing my mind. Until I received another photo. This one was different. It was a picture of me, taken earlier that day, only I wasn't in control of my face. I was smiling, that same eerie smile. I looked over my shoulder, and there he was. But it wasn't just a man anymore. It was me, and I was the one smiling.